surrender, I let go, I surrender, I let go, I surrender, I let go.
Takes a village to keep me together, doesn't it? I'm way hot and I'm going to get a little carried away today. I know I am. So, Michael? Oh, now I'm off. Michael?
Yes.
What did Santa say when you told him about your daily dad bad jokes?
He said, "You slay me."
Would you like your special music that we play?
Oh.
On the side, or we don't have to?
Oh, absolutely. Don't let me get in the way. Somebody wrote the order of service, that would be me, and we added a song, and that would be me, and here they are, and here they are.
Thank you.
You're all looking at me like, what is she doing?
Just hold on. Come up with another one, Michael. I'm sure he can.
Oh, yeah.
So this is actually written by me and Joseph.
Yes.
In the silence, I can hear my higher self calling out to me. I breathe it in so deep, the truth lies right in front of me. In the silence, I can see my higher self standing right in front of me. He's giving me the strength to be who I was meant to be. And I can take a moment just to breathe. I can feel the peace inside of me. I can feel the universal heartbeat. I feel spirit washing over me.
That's awesome.
In the silence, I can almost taste the love. It's coming through so clear. I'm letting go of fear. The noise, it somehow disappears. And I can take a moment just to breathe. I can feel the peace inside of me. I can feel the universal heartbeat. I feel spirit washing over me. I can take a moment just to breathe.
I can feel the peace inside of me.
I can feel the universal heartbeat. And I feel spirit washing over me. Join us. I can take a moment just to breathe. I can feel the peace inside of me. I can feel the universal heartbeat. I feel spirit washing over me. I feel spirit washing over me.
So, Michael, what did Santa? No, I'm just kidding. Did I tell you we? Did I tell you we have a music team? Yeah. Don't ever let me get in the way of that. So could you get comfortable with the concept that we are all immaculate conceptions? I said that word right in this room.
We all kind of want to think that, don't we?
We are all immaculate conceptions. That's what you heard growing up, wasn't it? That's what we all heard, right? That we're such a blessing, that we are the light of God, that we are bigger than we could ever imagine ourselves to be, that we will grow up to do amazing things on this planet, and we were affirmed in every interaction with every adult that we ever had. Was that your experience?
No.
Because I want to talk to you after service. The majority of us were taught that we inherited sin, being descendants of Adam and Eve. Did you know that's where original sin comes from? Oh, yeah, that big story about an apple. Do you know that there is no reference about an apple in any religious text that I could research? Not one mention of an apple. Now, it may be that it was just a rumor started by the orange growers. I don't know. Might have been.
That's good.
However, it was allegoric, that story, and we ran with it. We allowed ourselves to buy into the concept that we're going to spend our entire journey here on the planet making up for that mistake. Born into the original sin. Now, I have a lot of opinion. I would be lying if I said I didn't, but I'm not going to be expressing the opinion of those that teach that, or the opinion I have about that. What we're here to do is to talk about a new thought. Remember? That's what we are. We're invited into a new thought. And the new thought is this: I was born of the original blessing.
Yeah.
How's that feel in the room?
A little better.
A little better. And nobody has to be wrong, and nobody has to be right. We just have to be present to what speaks to our souls. That's our only job. So if you want to hang on to the story of original sin, knock yourself out. Because if it brings you peace and it moves you toward a place of wholeness and connectedness, go for it. I can't get there from there. Personally, I want to encourage us and invite us into embracing the fact that we are born into the original blessing. Now, let's go back to that Immaculate Conception thing. Do you know that Immaculate Conception has nothing to do with the birth of a baby that they call Jesus? Did you know that? That was a big reveal.
Whoa.
It had to do with Mary, his mother. She was born, as taught by the church, into Immaculate Conception. The first human to ever arrive on the planet, not under the shroud of darkness and sin. Mary. That's what Immaculate Conception is about. And so I said, okay, That's a descendant I could line up with. I'm digging her a lot more than Adam and Eve. Born into the original blessing is the story as told by the church. And what the heck does that have to do with us in New Thought? Because the truth is, we've kind of let go of all those stories, or at least we're working on it. Somebody has to remember to put my tabs on these pages. And so I don't know about you, but I've struggled a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say struggle. Actually, I've been really fired up about this conversation because there was so much reveal in it for me. There was so much new thought in it for me. What if what if we are Mary in the Christmas story? What if we are born, were born, and are born into immaculate conception, never knowing the shroud of sin or pain for the sins of our fathers or mothers? What if we are Mary in the Christmas story? I'm in. And I started thinking about how that can be tied into what we teach in New Thought. That's where I struggled. Because I thought, man, I really like this information. How? Okay, so Spirit, we got to tie this together somehow. Let's see if that happens. Born into the original blessing, what it does is it spins the whole thing around. Born into the original blessing where we're not going to spend our lives making up for lost ground. Born into the original blessing. Now, does it mean that we don't get off track and miss the mark once in a while? And if you're one of those, I want to see you after service. Sin is an archery term. You've heard this before. It means to miss the mark. Does it mean if I claim I am born into the original blessing that I can't make a mistake? Heavens, no. Trust me. Well versed in making mistakes. But what it means is that I can go back to the thought that I came as an original blessing, not an original sin, and that mistake becomes a lesson and I get blessed, and so does the planet. When I can put my arms around and embrace the fact that I am a divine child of God, I hold me in a different light and I hold you in a different light. This is not new information, but I personally had never heard it attached to Immaculate Conception. Born into the original blessing so that we might be the greatest expression that we're invited into. And when we miss the mark and we sin, and we don't say those words very often in these rooms, do we? We don't use that three-letter word, sin, very often. But when we miss the mark and we sin, we have a platform, we have a place to go back to that is the divine definition of who we are. I am no longer mad at Adam and Eve because I'm not buying in to the fact that I owe for the apple or the orange or whatever fruit it was that they partook of. Kumquat? Love that one.
Hard to eat whole.
We have a different destination when we embrace the original blessing. We no longer make decisions out of fear and less than-ness. We no longer come from a place of, I can't catch up. I can't be enough because I started out behind the 8 ball. If you don't play pool, sorry about that reference. I started out behind. I started out in back. I started out late. We have a new destination when we come from the original blessing. We are Mary in the Christmas story. I am sure she was well dressed and wore beautiful scarves. My Mary did. How about yours? Who is your Mary? How does she show up in the world? What expression is that for you? When you remember that there was never a shroud of darkness over you from the very beginning. One moment, consider one area of your life that would be different had you remembered that you were born in the original blessing. One moment. Take that moment right now. What would it have been? Did you feel that shift in the room? Are we running that story that it was a mistake? Are we running the story that we're still making up for something that our descendants were accused of? Take the original blessing now and lay it over the top of that memory. Where do you go? Who are you now? Who can you be now? How do you show up? And how do you embrace the world around you? We are the original blessing. We are born immaculately, beautifully, pure. And when we get off track and we miss the mark, we don't have to throw our hands up in the air and say, well, I could never catch up anyway. Which then promotes more of that thinking, which then, well, you know where that goes. Not interested. Not my destination. I'm Mary. I am Mary. Say that with me. I am Mary. One of my favorite authors is Bishop Shelby Spong. And for those of you who don't know him, he is a former bishop. And he has turned most of the teachings of the church on its head. He was a Catholic bishop. Episcopal. Yeah. And he says this: there was never a time when we were created perfect and fell into sin and needed to be rescued. There was never a time. Because we are evolving people. We are not fallen people. We are not a little lower than the angels. We're just a little higher than the apes. Divine children of God expressing through us in every breath, in every word, and in every action. So in other words, there was never a closet for anybody to have to come out of. In other words, you were never not enough. In other words, you have always been loved. From the conception of the soul of who you are. How do you like you now? How does that feel now? And when you embrace that, what about those people around you? What if you give them the same benefit of the doubt? What happens in the world when we no longer hang on to original sin as our premise? What happens in the world? What happens in your little world? For me, I had a lot of people this week that I had to call up and I had to say, I forgot you were an original blessing. There were some that I didn't call, but I thought that. Bishop Spong also says this, and I love this verse or this quote. The church is like a swimming pool. Most of the noise is coming from the shallow end. The noise, those voices, that noise of how I need to be more, and I need to be better, and I need to catch up, and I need to be greater, and I never will, and I never have been. The noise. It's from the shallow end. And I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is, come on down to the deep end. This is where the real swimming happens. This is where the real expression starts to happen. It's within us. It's all around us. We are the original blessing. I was really jazzed about this. And I've known this. It's not like I didn't know this. But I'm inviting you into integrating. I am Mary. Not me, you. I'm Mary too. You are Mary in this story as we move into this holiday. This quote happened for me on the way to the Grand Canyon this week. As you know, I serve as a chaplain and bereavement counselor for hospice. So I'm tootling up to the Grand Canyon, and I'm processing, I'm thinking about this, I'm talking about this conversation that we're having on Sunday. And this is what came from me. When I would think about missing the mark, how do I justify that if I'm born in the original blessing? How do I justify that I make mistakes? Well, I make a cake too, but I don't become the cake. Some of the cake becomes me. But I'm not the cake. I made the cake. I made the mistake. I'm not the mistake. I made the cake. I'm not the cake. I made the mistake. I'm not the mistake. And this is what happened for me. It's a divine moment when I recognize my humanness. And that helped me arrive at the fact that, me personally, I don't need to be born again because I was born right the first time. And so were you. Welcome to your life of original blessing. This is the story of an innocent child. And as we move into this holiday and all the stories that are around these holidays, this is the story of innocence. This is the story of remembering that you are Mary. This is that story. What if, and this happened on the way to church this morning, what if you can't get your head wrapped around the fact that we are all born immaculate conceptions? Try this one on. What if you were born as the immaculate exception? The exception to the stories that you are not enough. You were born the immaculate exception to the stories of I can't catch up. You were born into the immaculate exception of being exceptional. What if? Namaste, my friends.